You've seen them shivering under your feeder, but how do sparrows survive freezing winter nights in your garden? Imagine a bird so small it could fit in your hand, huddled in a hollow log, its body temperature dropping to near freezing. Stay to the end, because we'll reveal how they outlast the cold with strategies that defy belief. Number 1. Imagine standing in your yard on a frosty morning, and you see a sparrow not just hopping, but actually puffing itself up like a tiny feathery puffball. This isn't just for show, it's a survival tactic. These birds use their feathers like a built-in blanket, trapping air close to their skin to stay warm. This technique, known as fluffing, has been studied by scientists at the University of Alberta who found that sparrows can insulate their bodies by up to 25% during cold nights. It's a silent yet powerful adaptation that shows how nature equips even the smallest creatures with incredible resilience. What this means for you is that every time you see a sparrow puffing itself up, you're witnessing a marvel of natural engineering. Each feather on that sparrow is like a tiny personal air pocket, and the way they're arranged is almost like a thermal blanket designed by evolution itself. This is not just about surviving the cold, it's about thriving. A study in the Journal of Experimental Biology noted that sparrows use a similar strategy to Arctic foxes, showing how even small birds can mirror the survival tactics of their larger, more northern relatives. When you see that puffing, you're seeing a bird that's not just reacting to the cold, it's actively building its own defense against it. The structure of their plumage is so efficient that it closely resembles that of the ptarmigan, a bird that lives in the Arctic, where temperatures can plummet to unimaginable lows. This tells you that the sparrow is not just a visitor to your yard, it's a master of its own survival. What may seem like a simple fluff of feathers is, in fact, a calculated biological response that has been refined over generations. When sparrows fluff their feathers, they're not only creating warmth, they're demonstrating a level of adaptability that's both surprising and admirable. This behavior is a daily reminder that even the smallest creatures have secrets that make them extraordinary. And as you continue to watch these birds in your yard, you might begin to notice that they're not just surviving the cold, they're mastering it. The next time you see a sparrow puff itself up, you'll know that it's not just a bird in your yard, it's a tiny, feathered engineer working tirelessly to stay warm. Number 2. The art of huddling. In your yard, during the dead of winter, you might notice a small group of sparrows gathering closely, their tiny bodies forming a warm, living blanket. This is not just comfort, it's survival. Studies from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology reveal that when sparrows huddle together, they can cut their energy use by up to 40%, a staggering number for such small birds. This is how they endure the cold, not alone, but together. What this means for you is that your presence might even influence their choice of safe, sheltered spots to huddle. Imagine the warmth that radiates from the center of this living group, where each bird shares its heat, reducing the need for individual effort. This behavior is not random, it's a calculated strategy honed through evolution. In one experiment, a group of 15 sparrows used 35% less energy when huddled than when they were alone. These birds are not just surviving the cold, they are thriving through unity. It's a quiet but powerful reminder that survival often comes through connection, not strength alone. Their huddling is a language of trust and togetherness. What happens when the sun breaks through the clouds and the birds begin to disperse? Some will fly off, but others will stay, perhaps sensing that the warmth of the group is still needed. This behavior is especially common in the Northeast, where house sparrows have learned to rely on each other in the harshest conditions. You might never know how many birds are watching you from the edges of this huddle, quietly learning, waiting, and when the next cold night comes, they'll remember. What will you do when they come back? Will you be there to share the warmth too? Number 3. A secret fuel keeps your sparrows warm when the night air bites. It's not just about endurance, it's about a metabolic miracle. These tiny birds can jack up their metabolism by 50% during freezing temperatures, a feat that rivals some of nature's toughest survivors. This boost is powered by a strategic shift in their diet, leaning heavily on fat stores that act like tiny internal heaters. The process is eerily similar to how emperor penguins survive Antarctic storms, using the same metabolic strategy to outlast the cold. What this means for you is that your sparrows are not just visiting your yard, they're thriving in it, and they're doing so with a resilience that feels almost personal. Imagine your sparrow as a tiny engine, revving up in the dead of night to keep its body warm. This isn't just an automatic survival mechanism, it's a calculated, biological response. The 2019 University of Washington study revealed that this metabolic leap is triggered by prolonged cold exposure, not just a quick dip in temperature. As the mercury plummets, these birds pivot their fuel source toward fat, conserving protein for more critical functions like muscle repair. It's a masterclass in survival, executed with the precision of a machine that's been fine-tuned by evolution over millennia. Your yard becomes a stage for this quiet nightly performance. You might not see it, but your sparrow is burning through fat like a tiny furnace, turning every cold night into a survival test. This process isn't just about staying alive, it's about choosing to stay close to home, even when the world outside seems hostile. The fact that sparrows can mirror the metabolic tactics of emperor penguins tells us that their resilience is not just instinct, it's a form of trust in their own biology. And in that trust, there's a kind of quiet invitation. They're not just surviving your winter. They're adapting to it, and you, as the one who feeds them, are part of that story. What will they do next, now that they've nassed, that they nimmer sumbled? Number 4. The power of shivering. You might not notice it, but on the coldest mornings, your sparrows are working overtime to stay warm. Their tiny bodies shiver, not out of fear, but as a biological miracle. This rapid shaking generates heat, burning up to 10 times more energy than they would at rest. It's a survival tactic honed over millennia, a silent pact between the bird and the cold. Watching them, you can't help but admire the effort it takes to simply stay alive. What this means for you is that every time you see a sparrow in your yard during a chill, they're not just surviving, they're fighting for every breath. This shivering is not random. It's a finely tuned response, guided by the hypothalamus in the bird's brain. Scientists at the University of British Columbia have observed how sparrows can regulate this process even when their body temperature is slightly above freezing. It's as if they're reading the temperature of the air and adjusting their internal furnace accordingly. There's a kind of awareness in that controlled tremor, a quiet determination to endure. You might think of them as small, but they're incredibly attuned to the world around them. Their shivering is not just survival, it's strategy, a calculated effort to endure the elements. Even when the world outside is hostile, sparrows choose to stay. They don't flee, they shiver. And in that act, they show you something profound resilience that doesn't shout, but hums beneath the surface. There's a trust in their persistence, a belief that the cold will pass and the sun will return. The next time you see one of these birds huddled near your feeder, remember, it's not just about food, it's about warmth, survival, and a quiet, unspoken agreement with the world that they're not going anywhere. And that, in turn, makes you feel seen, and maybe, just maybe, a little braver too. Number 5. The way sparrows find shelter in the coldest months is both clever and revealing. They don't just huddle anywhere, they choose hollow logs or thick bushes, places that cut the wind's bite by 70%. This isn't random, it's a survival strategy honed by generations of birds. You might spot them tucked into the base of a tree or nestled in the dense undergrowth, relying on the layers of leaves and branches like a natural blanket. What this means for you is simple. Your yard, with its native shrubs and fallen logs, becomes a sanctuary they trust, and that trust is the quiet story of their winter survival. Even in the heart of a city, sparrows are masterful at finding shelter. A 2017 study in avian ecology confirmed their preference for dense shrubs and hollow logs, places that shield them from harsh winds and snow. These locations aren't just about warmth, they provide a sense of safety, a hidden spot where they can rest without fear of predators. In Minnesota, a group of sparrows was observed huddled in an old birdhouse during a brutal winter, showing how adaptable they are. Your yard, with its layers of vegetation and natural structures, becomes a haven for them, one they return to again and again. But there's more to their shelter than just warmth and safety. Sparrows often return to the same spots year after year, creating a kind of unspoken agreement with the landscape. They remember which hollow logs offer the best protection, which bushes hold the most leaves, and which areas are safest from threats. It's a quiet, enduring relationship between the bird and its environment. And if you've ever watched a sparrow settle into a spot with total confidence, you've witnessed a moment of trust that goes beyond survival. It's a connection formed through familiarity and safety. What will you discover next in your own backyard? Number 6. The mystery of the sparrow's winter diet unfolds in the quiet moments before dawn, when the world is still wrapped in frost. House sparrows, those unassuming yet resilient birds, do more than just survive the cold, they adapt. In winter, they shift their diets to include high-fat seeds, such as sunflower seeds, increasing their fat intake by 30% compared to other seasons. This isn't just a survival tactic, it's a calculated change that ensures they have the energy to endure the long, frigid nights. The National Audubon Society has observed this behavior in sparrows across colder regions like New England and the Midwest, where the need for warmth is greatest. What this means for you is that your sparrows are more than just visitors, they're making choices based on the environment you provide. Imagine a sparrow, shivering slightly but alert, pecking at a sunflower seed in your yard on a frozen morning. This small act is part of a larger survival strategy. In one experiment, sparrows that had access to high-fat seeds were observed to survive 40% longer in freezing conditions compared to those without. This shift in diet isn't random, it's a deliberate response to the energy demands of winter. The increased fat intake acts as a natural fuel source, helping them stay warm and active when food is scarce. You might not realize it, but the seeds you offer are more than just a snack. They're a lifeline for these birds in the harshest months. Your yard becomes a sanctuary they can rely on, even when the world feels harsh. There's a subtle intelligence in the way sparrows choose their food in winter. They don't just eat what's available. They eat what gives them the best chance of surviving. This means that the seeds you leave out, especially high-fat ones, might be the difference between a sparrow making it through the season and not. You're not just feeding them, you're offering them a form of support they can trust. As the sun rises and the snow begins to melt, these small birds continue their quiet but vital work of adapting. And as you watch them, you might start to notice something more, the unspoken bond that forms between you and the creatures that depend on your yard for survival. What will you see next as the seasons shift once more? You sit quietly on your porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the world fall still in the early hours of dawn. A sparrow lands on the railing, not flinching, not darting away. It looks at you, really looks at you, as if it knows you, as if it trusts you. The wind whispers through the trees, but this bird stays. It doesn't need to be fed, it stays because it feels safe, because it has learned from the way you move, the way you speak, that you are not a threat. This is not just a bird. This is not just a bird. This is a companion, a creature who has chosen to be near you, not out of hunger, but out of trusty. Years from now, when you no longer sit on that porch, when your hands are no longer steady, the sparrow will still come. It will wait by the railing just as it always has. It will recognize you, not by your face, but by your presence, by the rhythm of your life, by the way you have been there, quietly, faithfully. And when you finally look up, it will be there, waiting. Not because it needs to be, but because it chooses to be, because it knows you, because it trusts you. And in that moment, the world feels smaller, kinder, and full of wonder. What's the coldest night you've seen sparrows endure in your own backyard? Have you ever watched them huddle or shiver to stay warm? We'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If you found this video moving or informative, be sure to share it with a fellow bird lover. I'll see you in the next one.